Things are heating up at Starbase for Starship Flight 10. So, what's the latest news on Ship 37 and Booster 16? We've got you covered as we count down to launch.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SC off. Bring in SC off. Off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go. Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.
Well, there on your screen, you can see Starbase, Texas, as we get ready for Starship Flight 10. And can you feel the excitement building as they build a gigabay? I'm Gene Rowley for NSF. Welcome to this countdown to launch. And let me bring in Adrian Bile, who's going to be talking all about the booster and the ship with us today.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here. I will state the elephant in the room. I look a bit different than usual because a certain person here broke his mini HDMI adapter about 20 minutes before the show. So I'm on my webcam today. Not my plan, but hey, we improvise. As SpaceX has so beautifully improvised over the last 2 months. And we will talk all about that and how we suddenly have a launch later this week.
Yeah, if you weren't ready for a launch, get ready, because apparently later this week we're going to see this thing potentially lift off. Also joining us today for Countdown to Launch, the one and only Ryan Weber. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. So we're got a launch soon for Starship. Yeah, that might surprise a couple of people, but we'll go over why we have one coming up soon. And as Adrian was saying, how they improvise, because they definitely improvise their way to getting a launch this soon compared to what we thought they might have to do. So yeah, we'll go over that.
Yeah, if you've been watching Starbase Live, you've seen things moving back and forth, and we're going to touch on all of that. But first, let's just get a rundown of when they're going to launch, when they're planning to launch, and the condition of both the ship and the booster. So let's bring Adrian back in. Adrian, let's talk about this booster. They're looking at Sunday, August 24th. You can see the L minus in the upper left-hand corner there, 145 hours. But where are we with this booster 16?
That's correct. Booster 16 very much visible there with its crown in the rocket garden. And honestly, it has been very ready for quite some time now. Initially, of course, paired with Ship 36, which is no longer with us. And now by getting a new partner with Ship 37. Again, it has been static fire tested for quite some time, with the initial static fire happening in June 2025. And since then, Booster 16 basically has just been waiting. Of course, over the last 2 days, they have started final preparations. They have done things such as arming, or like at least installing the flight termination system, and getting it ready. But, and I will already say this, Gene, here, and I know not a lot of people will like this booster will not be recovered on the next flight. We know that. That is confirmed. And this booster will indeed practice swimming in the Gulf very soon.
And if you guys have any questions about the Booster 16 or about Ship 37, be sure to tag us in the chat at NASASpaceflight. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And thank you for all of the questions that you guys send. We love reading the chats. And thank you to Space Pope for early on coming in with the support, blessing this countdown to launch. Space be with all of us. Thank you, Space Pope. Appreciate you joining us in this countdown to launch. Now, Adrian, you said this booster was static fired a while ago. It's been sitting there. Have they done anything with it recently? It's just been waiting.
Yeah, I mean, they're on the FTS again. They installed it. They get it ready. There's a good chance we not always have the perfect view, of course, what they do. I would bet with you that somebody was below this booster and inspected some engines. There's probably a good chance somebody took a look at it, and there will also be additional looks and checkouts over the next few days as they get ready for rolling it to the OLM. But honestly, no, this booster the booster, and I'm throwing this also to you here, Ryan. But like boosters overall with Block 2 feel relatively stable at this point, right? They understand how they do boosters.
Even not even just Block 2. I mean, I would say the Block 2/1 because SpaceX kind of just renamed it in a lot of ways. Booster has done a pretty good job. I mean, you had 7, which had all of its faults. It's the first ever the booster that flew. 9 blew up on its boost back burn. 10 had the issues on coming back in on reentry as it blew up on a landing burn. And then from basically booster 11 onwards, they haven't really had any major problems. I mean, they've had engine outs here and there, but one way or the other, those boosters have completed their landing burns and gone in for what they needed to do. I mean, yes, 14 did blow up, but 14 was also testing stuff that no other booster had tested before. So in terms of the overall mission and following the original flight profile, boosters have done a really, really nice job over the course of the last I would say the last 7 flights, 6 to 7 flights for Starship. It's been really cool to see. 33 engines working as intended. Everything's working great.
Now, you say that 33 engines working as intended, but we know from SpaceX's announcement, they've got a lot of tests planned even for this booster when we know it's kind of the most reliable part of the system. Adrian, we'll come back to you. Do we have a detailed list of the tests that they're planning on doing to Booster 16 during this flight?
Yeah, they once again will test a test that they already hinted and of course didn't get to with 14, and that is basically testing if they have engine out capability in the landing burn. Because in the landing burn, the final landing portion is in theory performed by the 3 center engines, right? But what if one of these 3 fails? So what they apparently want to do is shut down one of these, potentially spool up one of the middle again, and then try to land with that setup. It's a very basically they don't need these boosters anymore. As harsh as it sounds, Eugene, they have 2 more flights in Block 2. They have enough boosters to cover this. So why waste your time landing one of these if you can do these experiments that gather you very important data for future missions? They help you understand the capabilities of the booster. They help you, for example, understand cross-range capabilities. That's also what they said. They want to test that as well. And they will apparently target multiple different experiments towards the returning of the booster towards this flight of the booster. So it's quite a journey probably we want to see. Of course, the last time they attempted this, that was booster 14, and that didn't make it all the way to splashdown.
Ryan, the last time they flew the booster as well, they also had a higher angle of attack, and ResistaJet sent in a question saying, first of all, why are they not expending this? Why are they not trying to catch the booster? I think Adrian just answered that question, but are they going to do the same high angle of attack test, or have they determined like, hey, we know from Flight 9 we probably need to ease up on the booster angle of attack?
They may be trying the same angle, or they may try for a little bit of a more shallow angle compared to what they tried with Booster 14. I think what their plan is to just see the range at which they can do this with. Based off of what happened with 14, it'll infer on changes to Block 3, which I will say this: they already have made one of the big changes that'll help solve what happened with Block that happened on Booster 14's reentry, and that's the massive transfer to basically Falcon 9 that's now inside the LOX tank of Block 3 of Booster. So it makes that a lot harder for it to break or do anything along those lines, or having any other issues at the after to that booster. So it's kind of already helped infer design changes. They're gonna see how far they can push these boosters, these last 2, 16, and then most likely booster 15-2, with booster 17 just kind of there as a backup in case something were to happen to either 16 or 15 over the next little while, which is unlikely, but that's the only reason really why they're keeping it around. So
Now, we saw them dig some aft engines of the booster out of the Gulf for previous flights. And, we were talking in the back channel about all of the data that they're getting from this, Adrian. James sends in, I agree. He sends his question in at NASASpaceflight. I agree that you don't need them, but my money is on them fishing the engines again after splashdown. Do you agree, Adrian?
Depending if feasible, the Gulf is not always the same depth, or depending on where you land, and it also very much depends on the status of the booster when it arrives there. Let's word it like that, because of course, if you have a failure somewhere in very high altitude, there's a less chance of debris making it all the way than the further you go down. Of course, if they do a soft splashdown, that gives them a very, very good chance that this booster arrives relatively intact. Maybe an explosion of the tank section, but even then, the engine section probably is still relatively fine. So yes, in that case, I absolutely expect them to do one of these diving maneuvers again and gather as much data as they can, because after all, yes, you can gather data when you recover a booster in the chopsticks, but you can also do these very envelope expanding profiles and then still recover some of the data there, while also removing some trash from the ocean.
We know they're planning on hovering it above the ocean, and I assume they're doing all these engine out tests, and then they'll do a catch test. But it's going to hit pretty good. I mean, they're not going to soft land this.
I think they have not exactly said how high. They just said high above the water. So there's a good chance that, gravity will pull it down. And we have seen boosters in the past that even soft splashed down and they exploded. So if you're high above the water and you're splashing down, there's no chance this 3 millimeter thick tank section will hold that splashdown. That's just not happening.
They want to full hover while still above the ocean surface, and followed by shutdown and drop into the Gulf. So basically, they're trying to hover it, and then they want to just drop it, and they want it to break and blow up. Because when they just fished Booster 13's aft section out of the Gulf, 13, if those remember, it was the second catch attempt. There was a tower issue; they couldn't do it. And when it landed and then tipped over, the methane tank exploded along with the common dome, but most of the LOX tank in the engine section was intact. And it kind of floated south, still on fire, until they finally sank it. And then they went and got its engine section out, and there was a whole thing with that. But I think their intention is to try to drop it and get the whole thing to blow up, like as much as in as many pieces as possible, so they don't have to go get a large chunk. I think their intention is try to make sure they don't have a large chunk. Because 14, they didn't go fish anything of 14 out, and that's because the whole thing blew apart before it even hit the water. So,
yeah, which had to do, according to SpaceX, with that higher angle of attack. Don sent in another question. As you can see on the screen there, the rocket garden. Ryan, I'll come to you for this one. Are those tanks pressurized, or are they structural enough to hold themselves without pressurization? This is a question at NASASpaceflight. By the way, guys, don't forget, you can also do at NSF now to send us a question on YouTube. Ryan, are they pressurized?
So the 3 vehicles that are over there are pressurized. Would be 17, 16, and Ship 20. The boosters are definitely, these days, the boosters are definitely strong enough to be able to be held up on their own without being pressurized. But when you keep them for a long-term storage, you want to keep them pressurized. If we go way, way back to the days of Booster 4, they did not have enough structural integrity in order to depressurize the tanks and work inside them. There are many photos of the SpaceX 11K hooked up to the booster when they wanted to go work inside the tanks, because they were somewhat worried about its structural integrity while not pressurized. So they fixed that problem by adding a lot of stringers inside the tanks, a lot more structural integrity. and Block 3's even got more of that. So they've constantly added weight and added structural integrity to these vehicles as time has gone on.
Yeah. And we know they keep the ships pressurized when they're moving them. I assume the boosters to the pad as well probably have a little pressurization in them. And speaking of the boosters to the pad, you can see some venting there on the screen and a great shot of the rocket garden and the new Gigabase site there in the center. Adrian, we've done this many times where we count down to launch and we get ready for the launch. What is the latest that the booster can roll out to the pad with the present no earlier than time? This is from Death Ruddles, wants to know that.
That's a very good question. I think there is a. If you think about, they probably have to be stacked by like end of Saturday, somewhere in there. Like that's the absolute latest. I don't think they aim for that. I think that's a like emergency. We are a bit too late. Whoop whoop. But if you include like a day of wiggle room and somewhere in there, I think there's a very good chance we will see a booster roll somewhere in the Tuesday-Wednesday range. And I think there's a very good chance we will see a ship roll somewhere in the Thursday-Friday range and see a full stack by the end of Friday. I think that's somewhere of the expected timeline that gives them all Saturday basically to perform all kinds of checkouts, understand everything that went well, understand if everything is good, and then basically get ready for launch operations on Sunday. I think that's the realistic timeline with margins. However, we have also seen in this past that SpaceX is very good at using margins in launch weeks.
Yeah, there have been times where we're like, there's no way they're going to do it. There's no way they're going to do it. And then bam, all of a sudden you wake up and there's a ship on the stand. And speaking of the stand, Ryan, they're still doing work on the OLM. They're taking everything off. They're getting it ready for the flight. How's the OLM looking? Well, we've got a couple of minutes here.
Well, they're still doing things here and there with the mount. All 20 clamps are back in. I think the booster, the hoses should be hooked back up inside. Eventually, the confirmation that that's all completed will be when they start to remove scaffolding around the hood. They open the hood for the first time in a while because they've had it closed while having to do all the fun ship shenanigans and whatnot. So they'll have to purge those lines, purge the booster QD. We'll eventually see them also do a purge and a test of all the Raptor QDs as well. So there's still a few items that have yet to be done before a booster can get put on. But they're definitely progressing very nicely in getting this thing reconverted from a ship static fire state to a launch site state. And I mean, I might as well just kind of go into this at this point since we kind of did this and people may ask, ship static fire state? Well, that's because, if those of you who remember, Ship 36 blew up at Massey's. So all of Massey's, most of Massey's was taken offline and they couldn't static fire ship anymore. And, they then modified Pad A to put a ship stand on there and static fire the ship on it. Probably one of the weirdest things we've seen a while in rocketry, and definitely one of the weirdest things we've seen a while in this program. And I will say it's one of the coolest things I've seen a ship on there that's just weird at this point. But yeah.
I love the fact that SpaceX is like, oh no, we blew up our testing facility. Let's just use our launch facility as a test facility because that's what they started out with before. It was just a patch of dunes. And now they're like, well, if we do this and move it over there and weld this in place and remove that, then we can test the ship. And they did it. And I think that was really cool. I agree with you, Ryan. Adrian, yeah, there you go.
There it is.
There's 36
That's a replay. That's a replay.
That's a replay.
Yeah. Disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, that's why we're looking at Ship 37 for this launch. Speaking of Adrian, what are some of the regulatory hurdles that we still have to go for this potential launch no earlier than 145 hours? Six String Simpleton wants to know that.
Absolutely. Before that, I want to quickly mention that I see the people begging for patch leaks in the chat. Yeah. No, it's full stack, everybody. We'll get there when it's full stack. We are getting ready. You will see it. It's amazing. But not yet. I see you. I read you. In terms of regulatory. So We have to talk first about two things quickly. One is the launch license, and others are mishap investigations, because either your launch license not being up to date or not fitting for the flight you want to perform, or a mishap investigation being open would conclude them from performing a launch. However, and here comes the good news, the FAA has closed the mishap investigation into Flight 9, which means SpaceX has identified corrective actions into the system that caused the problems on Flight 9. And with that, the grounding, or the not flight allowance, the FAA doesn't want us to use the word grounding for this, but they still haven't given us a better word for it. So I'm still saying grounding, is no longer in effect. And they have also confirmed that the current launch license absolutely covers what SpaceX wants to do on Flight 10 as of now. So that means on that side, everything good to go. There are some things, however, Gene, they will still need to issue. We still need some notice for air missions, especially in Cuba and Mexico. We need some TFRs in the US. We need the road closure for launch. And then we are really good to go. There are some early signs of these regulatory approvals popping up, but we are still missing some indications that they will need to have.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to happen before this potential launch on Sunday, but we're all here. We're going to bring you the latest news. Countdown to launch will be running all this week, I believe, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific, right here. And you're welcome to join, and of course, Starbase Live and the rest of it that we put here on NSF Starbase update coming up later tonight. Ryan, as we look at Pad 2, oh look, there's NASASpaceflight. That's another place where you could get a great bunch of information on your phone, on your mobile device. As we look at Pad 2 now in the upper left-hand corner, oh, go ahead.
Look at the bottom there. That's exactly the notice I talked about.
Oh yeah.
There. And still notice for air missions, temporary flight restriction, road closure for launch, and of course the hardware readiness. The perfect list. You can check it off, and once everything is green, that's a go for launch.
And by the way, I was remiss as my host duties to thank everybody in the control room, Kevin and his team, showing you these graphics right now. So thank you for that, keeping us all up to date with all of the notices. And right there on NASASpaceflight app on your mobile device, get all the information. So, Ryan, I want to ask the question. There's a lot of stuff in this view right here. You have Pad 1, Pad 2, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to come out. And they do it really, really fast in a week. So we talked about the scaffolding on Pad 1. We talked about all of the hoses for the ship, makeshift QD they did for ship testing. But there's a lot more. Those cranes have to come down. Is there anything on Pad 2 they have to move? Specifically, do you know?
Well, in terms of everything that has to go out, I mean, you're talking about scaffolding, all the cranes. They'll remove a lot of the all the lifts, the forklifts, telehandlers. They'll move a lot of it to Sanchez, or move it at least out of the way. The 11K will have to get laid down at some point. In terms of scaffolding on Pad 2, it should all be fine. They had scaffolding up. They've had scaffolding up around that pad for a long time, for a couple launches. So it'll be fine over there. They just need to make sure the cranes are laid down and kind of out of the way.
Well, unless there are more questions coming in from chat about the booster, let's talk about Ship 37. Its predecessor, as you saw earlier, had an unceremonious end regarding some COPVs that, if you watched the latest flame trench, EJ said got dropped before it got installed. We don't know if that's true or not, but that's EJ's speculation. But it did take apart Ship 36 in quite an energetic manner. So we're looking at Ship 37, which Adrian is currently sitting in Mega Bay 2. Is that correct?
Absolutely. On the left side.
Have we seen in there lately? What's going on with that ship?
We basically cannot see it from the hard to see. We can see them working on it. Do you see these lifts there? They're working on it. Ryan, I think they're working on the ship QD you said earlier.
So on 37, all these lifts will be working on all the heat shield and whatnot. So there's a lot of, as SpaceX talked about, they are once again fourth time's the charm here, trying to do the heat shield experiments. So the regenerative cool tile, metallic tiles, taking tiles off at certain points on the ship, all that fun stuff. So that's what they're trying to do there. There's a replay of ship static fire here. So as we were talking about earlier, they rolled the ship out to the launch site for static fire testing because of the unfortunate accident that was Ship 36. COPV blew up, which led to the whole thing getting destroyed. So SpaceX basically cobbled together a ship transport stand and a makeshift ship umbilical connector. I'm not calling it a QD because it doesn't actually do any quick disconnect stuff. It's an umbilical connector. It's kind of a better name for it. But basically, they hooked into the hoses that go to the booster QD, the primary supplies, the pre-press, the methane reclaim, all the high pressure stuff, and then they hooked that into a ship QD plate, the QD plate, I should say, and hooked that to the ship. And they static fired a ship. They did a single engine static fire, a 6-engine static fire, and then, well, unfortunately, they had to change an engine out. So then they rolled it back out again after taking most of it apart again. Then they put it all back together again and rolled out, did a spin prime, and now it's back in. The OLM is getting back into launch configuration, and ship is getting, the last finishing touches. We were talking about the tiles it's going to have to get, the finishing up tile work, and then it'll get put on a transport stand and get, I think it was 8 sim links to basically, once again, they're trying to do the deploy. And I guess everyone, I bet people would be asking, well, why do they keep trying to do these tests? Why not, just try to fly the ship? Well, SpaceX is trying to prove a few things, and that's what they've been trying to do with Block 2. Once they had gone to space, got Block 1 where they wanted it to, they then wanted to get this new version, this new generation of ship to, move the program forward, to get onto Block 3, to get into a more operational phase. And in order to do that, you need to get to orbit. You need to learn how to deploy whether it's Starlinks or regular satellites. So they're trying an in-space burn again. They're going to try heat shield experiments again, and they're going to try to deploy Simlinks again. Because, 33 didn't succeed, 34 didn't succeed, and of course 35 didn't succeed in that. And as we know, 36 didn't even get off the ground. So it's, once again, they're trying for the same thing again. Cross your fingers it works, because boy, do I want to see the deployment of Simlinks. I want to see a reentry with the upgraded cameras, because for those of you who may not remember, Block 2 has upgraded cameras over Block 1. They have different places for them. I cannot wait to see shots of reentry, better shots in space of hopefully a ship not tumbling. There's a lot of exciting stuff for this mission. Hopefully they succeed. It would be nice to cover a Starship launch that doesn't fail. Please. Ship 37, it's all on you. No pressure.
No pressure. I'm going to take issue with the word failed, because you and I both know that they're getting data. They're getting lots of data from these flights. Yes, I'm with you, Ryan. I'm right there with you. I want to see a splashdown and successful. I mean, I'm wearing my I Made Seco shirt because for luck. You gonna thumbnail me there, Kevin?
Oh, there we
go. But yeah, no, I want to see it too. But again, I don't think these are failures. I think they're getting the data, they're innovating the next ship, booster, etc., and moving forward. And I'm here for it. And there's some great questions coming in. So let me get to some of these. And by the way, yes, Mr. X, that's what my shirt says. I made Seco. This is for Ship 37. Good luck. Bideford, thank you so much for your support. Thank you to NSF for all the pre-launch coverage for us nerds. This channel is the best for SpaceX coverage at Starbase. Hugs everyone at SpaceX Success. Bideford, thank you. You're a legend. Thank you for being here, and thank you for that support. It will go to a good cause, probably Starship Flight 10. Let's see. Questions. Slick40 wants to know, and Ryan, I'm going to send this one to you. Are you aware of any changes to the Pez dispenser that have been made to increase the chance of successfully deploying the fake link satellites? I just want them to open the door. But Ryan, that one's to you.
I will say this. It doesn't sound like it was not the door's fault. So the door is not at fault for 35. The at fault part is the fact that they had a methane leak into the payload bay. which is not ideal, but that they had a methane leak, which I will just say, if you think about 33, 34, and 35, it's either pressure, it's something to do with the engines and gas. They've had 3 failures that have to do with engines. That's not great, Bob. But anyways, it wasn't a door's fault. And to answer your question, the PEZ, as far as I know, has stayed the same through Block 2. It's completely different between Block 1 and 2. There's a ton of changes there. But as far as I understand, they have not changed it at all, at least not from whence they, put it into the ship. We don't know what goes on inside that payload bay. We don't have cameras in there, so we can't see if they've made changes after installing it. So,
Yeah. And I see a lot of people talking about the patch, Adrian. Everybody wants you to sneak peek the patch, the leaker. They want you to leak the patch. But the new patch design for Flight 10 will be coming at full stack. But if you did want to support us, and by the way, we're reading all the questions. So it's a great way for you to get your question and go check out some of that TPS merch. There's the TPS collection. I have the mug, right? I got to go the other way. There. It's great. You can have phones. You can have water bottles. You're not the phone, but the phone.
I really
cover.
should
Yeah,
get
you need
one of these phone cases. Yeah, I really should get one of these phone cases. I feel like, oh, that's needed.
Yeah. By the way, you can fill out a question on the merch store. So if you have, they can't get this one anymore, can they, Adrian? They can't get the M8 Seco shirt. Is it still out there? Oh, I put them on spot. See, you're not supposed to do that.
I totally know that, by the way. You can still get it.
You can still get it. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's
and it comes
some
in
limited
it's
items.
Orange.
Yeah, we had some limited items about the last flight, for example, the shrug patch. But celebratory designs like this tend to be up a bit longer, not forever. Like they still need to have some relevance, but it has still relevance, so it's still there.
And if you haven't been watching the Patch Rescue, you got to go check that out. But yes,
yeah.
Ryan's actually wearing one of my favorite shirts, the Hawaiian collection, the Splashdown Summer collection. Is my picture still up, Kevin? Where's my picture, Bob? I'm looking all buff by the pool. I don't think he has.
They're comfy. These are really nice and really comfy. I will definitely vouch for them. I love these. This shirt is really, really nice. So
yeah. Our shop team is doing a great job. Lindsay and our designers, and if I start naming them, I'm going to mess them up. So Ryan's going to jump in and help me. But there you go. There are a lot of the Hawaiian shirts, and my wife loves the shorts. She loves the shirts. So it's good stuff. Get a gift for Flight 10. And ask your questions, by the way. I know it sounds like a lot, but we're just playing here. All right, let's get back to some ship news. Because on Flight 9, and Ryan, I'm definitely coming to you for this one. We saw a hot spot in the engine bay, which everybody said, ooh, right? Like, what's that? And do you think we haven't heard anything from SpaceX on that? And the hot spot, not on the engine, by the way, this was on the skirt. Do you remember what I'm talking about? It was like a vent. Could have been a trick of the light, but it could not have been.
It was on the LOX dump vent. That could have been just the shutdown and entrapped gases heating it up. I don't really know. It's one of those things, but that is the LOX dump vent. They've got 3 of them in the aft skirt. Basically allows them to dump out any excess liquid oxygen before they re-enter, because when Starship goes to re-enter, they dump the main tanks and just keep the headers. It kind of equalizes pressure and equalizes your center of gravity a little bit more, especially when you go to do the belly flop and do the flip and burn. And it's best not to have all that propellant sloshing around in your main tanks when you do that. So that's one of the reasons why they dump that. So that's just one of the dump valves. It might have been an anomaly. There was also that hot spot on the RVAC. We haven't heard anything about that either. It's like the second or third flight we've seen that. It's just kind of, we just haven't really heard anything about that. But maybe it's not as big of a deal, or SpaceX is still understanding what happened there. One way or the other, it's not what caused the failure of 35. What caused the failure of 35 was when they use autonomous pressurization. So basically they tap off gas from the engines in layman's terms, and they pipe it back into the tanks to repressurize it. So they take methane gas and they pipe it through the top of the forward dome. Now, right at the top of the forward dome, there's a diffuser. It kind of looks like a like a colander almost. It's like a upside down colander that used for spaghetti and stuff like that. And basically, it just disperses the gas out evenly through the top of the tank, so that it more evenly pressurizes the tank rather than just a single inlet. It sounds like that or the canister around that is what failed, whether a weld line failed or that itself failed, and you started to get methane gas leaking into the payload bay. And when that leaks into the payload bay, when you're in that cold of an environment, it instantly freezes. And that's probably the particles you're seeing when during that video for ship 35. But hopefully 37 is good to go.
And there's some more questions coming in. There's no way I'm good. No 20 is, I can't read your name, but I know No 20. Thank you for sending in your question. We've seen them do some COPV tests. That's a beautiful sight. We've seen them do some COPV tests after ship 36, Ryan. We feel confident about the COPVs for 37 now, considering that, I guess, did they swap them out? Are they a new batch or something? Do we know that?
We don't really know if they swapped them all out. I think it was 37 or 38. There was one of the ships that I think they did swap one or two COPVs out. I don't remember when that was, but it was a while ago. But the biggest thing you have to understand with COPVs is it can be kind of hard to detect the damage in them. The damage that was on the one in 36, it could have been handling, it could have been during delivery, it could have been a manufacturing defect. We don't really know. I don't know if SpaceX really knows exactly when something like that could have happened, but one way or the other, it failed. And for those of you asking, well, why didn't it fail when they pressurized it the first time? Well, that probably helped. Sometimes it can take a couple cycles for something to fail. I mean, things just fail. It's just one of those things. Even when they got a defect, you can't really predict when it'll fail. Sometimes it just does, and it blew up and you lost 36. It's kind of hard to tell whether or not 37 would have that kind of a problem. I bet SpaceX went through and did all the NDT or non-destructive testing that they could do on these COPVs and traced back their handling, traced back their delivery, trying to make sure quality assurance wise that they weren't dropped, they didn't have any issues, maybe there weren't any manufacturing defects, or there was maybe a bad batch of carbon fiber. They'll obviously go through and look through everything. That's about all you can do. At that point is you pressure test them, put them on the vehicle, and you use them because they tested fine. Sometimes things test fine and then they just break. It's just kind of the unfortunate way of how mechanical things work.
Yeah. And again, this is, if it was easy, everybody be doing it. I love this shot from the Margaritaville. This is where we set up. I know Doss and who else is going to be up on top of the Adrian? We know who's going to be up on top with him. We don't really know. There's a question that comes in. It says, what's the most challenging thing between now and launch? James asks, I guess he's talking about NSF. It's planning. We're all trying to get there. We're trying to plan. We're trying to do everything. So that I'm not going to steal Adrian's thunder here, but I would say planning is the most challenging thing.
Yeah, for here at NSF, definitely planning and then executing. Because we all have kind of ideas what we want to do the next few days and what we need to get ready. I can tell you everybody here has a full plate of things we need to get ready. The first step is basically making sure you bundle your resources correctly. You have the right people at the right place so they can do their stuff they need to do and then do it. Like that's the second part, because we all have the giant broadcast to prepare. The good thing is we are getting into a mode where we understand what we want to do. So that's helping. And then once we fully once we get a bit of more operational, that helps you to prepare such a team as NSF with these Starship launch. It's not our first Starship launch anymore. We understand how to do a stakeout. We know what we're going to do for the launch stream. And that definitely gives us a bit of a head start.
And we're all very tired and eat a lot of cheesecake. That's how that goes. Natalie, thank you for becoming a Pad Rep member. Guys, your support is so important to us here. All these amazing views are because you join us and become part of our nerd family and love rocket launches. and here at NSF. And Nick sends a question in. Adrian, I'm going to come back to you for this one. Could SpaceX conduct a wet dress rehearsal for this one? Are you expecting a wet dress rehearsal or another spin prime of this booster since it's been sitting for so long? What are your thoughts?
To answer this question like my old teacher would have, yes, they could. Everything is possible. But the honest, realistic expectation is if they want to go on Sunday, if they want to go by the end of this week, they cannot really do a wet dress anymore. They would have the vehicles stacked by probably Wednesday-ish to even do that anymore. But we have not seen that previously. Like they have started to skip that step because they apparently feel confident in the vehicles. It also burns a lot of propellant, of course, because you cannot recondense everything that you use during the wet dress. So it's kind of a thing you probably don't want to if you don't have to. And SpaceX has reduced the need for that. So I think I feel 99.9% confident that there will not be a wet dress rehearsal before launch.
Yeah, I agree. I like you said, getting more operational, getting into a cadence, kind of know when things are going to happen, and when things go off the rails, you kind of know very quickly. Mr. Gamer IO, thank you for that super chat. Cheesecake mentioned, absolutely. There's always cheesecake at the Margaritaville Beach Resort when we're there doing a stream. I'm going to take about the next few minutes, and we're going to kind of switch gears here a little bit and talk about Elon's tech presentation. Can we do that just to kind of get what do you think he's going to say, Ryan, before he's expecting this before Flight 10? What do you think he's going to say? The normal nonsense, or you think he's going to give us something we're going to be like, whoa, didn't see that coming?
I mean, all we've heard is that he might be doing one, or at least he said he was going to do one, but we haven't heard a time, a day, or anything else on what he would do. So we'll see if it even happens. I want it to happen, and my other thing with that is, well, how technical are we getting? Because I know how technical I want it to be, but how technical I want it to be and how technical he makes it are two entirely different things. So I'm hoping for like updated stats, maybe showing some of the more internal like vehicle changes or some things here and there. I want a top-down shot of Booster 18's aft like we got with Booster 4. Please and thank you. I want that so badly. There's a lot of other people, a lot of like modelers that want that as well. I mean, I would love a explanation of how they plan on protecting the forward dome of the booster. Are they going to do some kind of ablative on it? Are they going to do like metallic tiles, like what's going to go on the aft end of the booster? What's their plan for protecting that long term? There's a lot of things I'd love to know, or for that matter, what changes have you made to the aft section of the ship? But will we get that? Maybe.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope we get some kind of more in-depth stuff, kind of along the lines of the way back the 2019 presentation, because a lot of times when he does these presentations, he does the basic making life multiplanetary, let's get to Mars and whatnot. So I'm hoping for a more technical side of things, but I won't keep my hopes up.
Well, he says right there on the tweet, you can see on the screen, shortly before the next flight, I'll do a live technical update. They're going to talk about engineering. They're going to talk about production, which is Starbase, launch plans for the future. Adrian, what do you think those launch plans are?
I mean, I hope we get more than we want to go to Mars to make life multiplanetary. As Ryan said, like, there's two kinds of Elon presentations. There's technical and inspirational. The last one we got was definitely in the inspirational camp, because if you have paid attention to Starbase, honestly, there was very limited news in that presentation. There were some items that were cool to see, but most of the changes to the vehicles we kind of already knew. So that's always a thing of like, is it technical or is it more this inspirational, greater goal kind of situate talk? And I really hope that the way he words it means they're really going into technical details. I mean, I think on the it's kind of funny because we talked about the grid fin so much, and we kind of knew the grid fin change was coming, and then it was even on the render in the presentation, and it was not even mentioned. Like, it was just like on a single page on the render, and he didn't even like care about it. We're just like, okay, we're just gonna ignore that there's free grid fins on this. Like, okay, bye, cool. So yeah, that's of course the hope. Go a bit more into detail, answer more of these questions. Yeah.
But when the grid fin finally dropped, we were all like, what? Like, we tore that picture apart, Ryan.
So the one thing that seems really cool, and I hope that they do it more, because they seem to be really, really proud of Block 3 of Booster. Like, this next generation of vehicle, they seem to be really, really proud of the design. Showing off the new transfer tube, I did not expect a post about that at all. And then showing off the grid fin, like we didn't even see the grid fin outside, and they're showing off the lift point on it, showing off the new design. It's 50% larger, all this stuff. It's really, really cool to see them kind of gush about their own vehicle design, because this is such a leap forward in the program. It's definitely a step in the right direction, and I'm hoping for a post of the aft and a post for the forward. If not, Elon needs to talk about it, please. Like, I'm crossing my fingers, please. I want them to go in depth about all the changes they made to the aft section, the hot staging, what went into that. I would love that kind of stuff. But or maybe just show me the technical drawings. Can we go that far? Maybe? I don't know. It'd be nice.
I kind of want to take inspiration from another Elon company, because we had in the past like these Tesla battery days, and I like when they let people speak about their specific components. Like, I get it, it's Elon Musk's presentation, but I would love to have the designer of the booster like forward dome talk about that component, or I would love to have the Raptor 3 designer talk about plumbing. Like, that's what they did with the Tesla battery day. They let like specific engineers talk about their skill sets and what they are doing, and I think that would be really cool with Starship to get to that point where we have the specific, very high focus engineer of that single component talk about changes on future vehicles. I think that would be an amazing thing.
That would, but my brain goes to, I can't be the only one who wants to see a guy in a white lab coat with a pocket protector come out and go, yes, I designed these ship grid fins. I mean, seriously, I would love that. Elon, please, that is gold. Drudar, thank you so much for your wet dress support. We appreciate it. FDS has a great question following up on what Ryan was saying about, do you think SpaceX will just skip the last V2 flight and move on to V3? That's a great question, considering what you just said.
Well, okay. No. Even if 37 is perfect, no, I think they'll do one last suborbital flight, and yes, it's going to be suborbital because for those who think that they're going to go to orbit and try to catch 38, no, that's not happening. I don't think they're catching a ship till 40 or 41, because I don't even expect 39 to be an orbital flight. But to 38, they have a booster, they have a ship ready to go. Or at least the ship is getting engines right now. They wouldn't be installing engines and finishing off the heat shield if they really didn't intend on flying it. If they wanted to just kind of store it away, they would have probably just parked it in the rocket garden for the time being and just kind of let it sit there. But they haven't, and they are basically trying to get both vehicles ready. So I expect them to fly it. They'll get both flights done. Pad A will get scrapped, or pad scrap, as you want to call it that, because it's a booster test stand turned suborbital launch site. Yes, it's suborbital launch site because nothing from it's going to go to orbit. So remember that. But they'll fly the last one.
And let's talk about Booster V3 here for a little bit while we've got just a few minutes left. Gabriel sends in a question: what are the chances of a V3 booster catch on its maiden flight? Adrian, I'll ask you first. They typed V2, but I think they meant V3.
60%. I think it's higher. I think it's higher than half. I think there's also a good chance they will be very careful. This is all under the assumption that they even go for a catch on the first flight of a new block booster if they don't want to gather data first. But I think if they go for it, it's higher than 50%.
Ryan, what do you think?
If they originally plan on catching it, I think they'll try at that point. But there's also the feeling I have that they won't even try to catch a booster 18. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether or not they'll plan to catch it or not. It really depends on how confident they are in the booster engines and everything else, or if they want to do a Block 3 soft water landing and then maybe try to go grab the ends injection. It depends on how confident they are in it. But if they tried for a catch, I think obviously they'll try to get it, but we'll see if they actually do or not.
Yeah, I'd love to see it, but again, it's all about getting the data, saving the pad till pad 2's ready. Just protect the pad, I think is the mantra right now. Steve, thank you so much for that super, super generous support. We appreciate it. And there's some kilt conversation going on in the chat. You guys can have fun with that. I'm not going to get in the middle of that, but Steve, thank you very much for that. Okay. If Ship 37 performs well, do you think they will take 38 orbitals? Usmani wants to know. Ryan, I'm going to come to you first on that one. Wasn't that always the plan? We were like 35, 36, 37. We're still waiting on an on-orbit relight again and a Starlink simulator deployment. If this one goes well, do they go orbital on 38?
No, absolutely not. You have had 3 failures in a row, well, not counting 36. You've had 3 failures in a row, and you are, even if this goes perfectly, I would not trust Starship to go to orbit and be able to do a deorbit burn and control itself on reentry. I would not trust it. If I were the FAA, I wouldn't do it. And even if I was SpaceX, I still wouldn't do it. Do one last suborbital flight with Block 2, and then you either roll the dice and try an orbital flight with your first ever Block 3, or you do a suborbital flight with Block 3 and then go to orbit on your second Block 3 flight, which is, mind you, what they intended to do with Block 2. They intended to fly a suborbital flight with 3314, and then they intended to do 3415 as an orbital flight, and look how that turned out. So, no, until you get like back-to-back solid suborbital flights, you're good. Because it would have worked fine with 33 and 34 because they had 31 and 30 to fall back on. As in, look, we did this with these 2 ships. But you don't have anything to fall back on. You've had 3 failures. 2 that didn't even make it to SECO. So I no, doesn't go to orbit.
Well, I think this is a go big or go home moment. What do you think, Adrian?
So is it I feel like SpaceX is very good at buying down the stakes on this on these kind of flights and like making them, because they can produce so many, like they can do so many test flights. The relevance of a single given test event is less significant. If you can only fly like once every 2 years, I mean, take SLS for example, right? SLS has a launch cadence right now of about every few years. If that test goes wrong, you lose years. If Starship goes wrong, well, you lose months.
Mm-hmm. So with that conversation in mind, if this goes well, Resisted sent another question. No ship catch until after 40 if all goes well with this flight. Ryan, how quickly do we go on to flight 11? I know we're getting way out here, speculation. We don't even know if flight 10 is going to happen this Sunday as it's scheduled to be. No earlier than 144 hours. Should this one go well, fingers crossed, lucky shirt on, right? When is 11? Is it before the end of the year?
Yeah, it'll probably be October. They got a static fire 15. They got a static fire 38, which means they got to mod the pad, then demod it again. They've shown that they can do that pretty quickly at this point. So that takes about a week to mod it and another week to demod it, give or take. Is probably what it'll take. So I would say early to mid October for flight 11. And then, I mean, if you really want to go out, that's where the lull sits in. Spoiler alert: they're not flying a Block 3 this year. I will put money down. I would bet that it would be like a minus 1,000%. They're not flying a Block 3 this year. They just stacked 39 on its payload bay, so it's got a whiles yet. It's a brand new ship, brand new booster, brand new pad. There's a lot of things to test. They can't even static fire that ship should it even be completed at this point. There's a lot of things that got to work out there. That'll probably be March, April, May would be my guess for that kind of flight. So we'll get a lull, but I expect 11 to be like October.
Yes. I still love that there's still some people very, very optimistic about the Block 3 timeline. But even if you look at previous timelines, how fast they build ships and boosters, and make that like 2 months faster at this point, they still wouldn't launch this year. Like, I don't want to be like the grumpy guy in the party, but there's 0 chance they will launch Block 3 this year. 0. If no way.
Like, you look at the timeline for even Ship 37, or for that matter, even Ship 33. It took them 5 months from when they started stacking the nose cone onto the payload section. 5 months from that point is when they launched. It was beginning of January. If you take 5 months from this point, that's beginning of February. Even at Block 2 rates, which this is a newer ship and a new pad, and it'll be a new static fire test stand. Like, you're talking, everything's new. So it isn't go out, test it, be done with it. It's going to go out, maybe test it a few times, and then go. Plus, probably a pair of wet dress rehearsals on Pad B with the full stack. I would not be surprised if they do like 2. Or a couple of tanking tests plus a wet dress rehearsal. Because they have to figure out how to load a whole this rocket with 5,000 plus tons of propellant in less than 30 minutes. They have to figure that out, which is not going to be easy. So, yeah.
Well, let's add more ports. More ports, more better, right? No, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun to see. Let's talk about the engines. These are all version 2 engines, right? These are Raptor V2s. Booster 3 version 3 will have Raptor 3 engines. A lot of people are asking questions about are the engines part of the problem with the Block 2 ships? Ryan, I'm going to come to you first on this one. I think engines aren't really the problem, because we see the booster engines working well. We see the ship engines sort of working well with the hotspots. What are your thoughts?
I think Raptor 2 isn't necessarily the issue. I think the problem they're having is the drive section of the ship and other associated components. Don't know the whole reasons why. There can be a lot of reasons as to why they're having issues with them, but I don't think the engines themselves are the problem. RVACs could be having issues here and there, but I will say the sea levels are definitely doing their job and operating the way they're supposed to be. At least with Booster, because they seem to be working flawlessly there, and mostly flawlessly on the ship for a lot of instances. So I really don't think the Raptors are the issue here. I think it's more the ship itself that's the issue.
And Adrian, we've seen some Raptor V3 testing on McGregor Live. We've seen it. You can see the testing going on. When they finally we're going to start to see deliveries to Starbase pretty soon for Booster 3, right?
Yeah, they're getting there. They're ramping up. It still seems like they're in a path where they still are very hardware rich with Raptor 3s at McGregor. They are not nearly the cadence they need to support any Block 3 at this point. Remember, they need about 39 engines of that to be ready. We are right now somewhere in the serial numbers around 30, and most of these engines are not going to be used on any vehicle. So we will see a significant ramp of Raptor engine production for Block 3. So yeah, it's going to be probably somewhere around. I would expect the first Raptors to arrive at Starbase, Raptor 3s arrive at Starbase somewhere around like November, December.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I was. I was in the Christmas time. Like, hey, Merry Christmas, Starbase. Here's some Raptor V3s, and there on your screen you can see McGregor, the testing stands. And if you're not watching McGregor live and watching the engine testing, it is a lot of fun to talk about. Also, you can watch Starbase Live for all of your Starbase action and Space Coast Live when we do launches from Florida and Space Coast. Guys, thanks so much for this countdown to launch. I appreciate you guys talking with us and all of the questions you guys have been sending in, the amazing support. We love it. Don't forget, countdown to launch tomorrow again at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. Ryan, thanks for joining us today on this countdown to launch.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. If I made some extra noise, it's been a minute since I've been on cam, so that's on me. But sorry for that. But I can't wait for this ship to fly. Flight 10 is going to be exciting. Let's hope Ship 37 succeeds, because boy, I would love to. I've said it again and again and again. I would love to write an article about a ship that succeeded, got through re-entry, had a working heat shield, did the flip and burn, landed on target. It'd be nice to not have to write, oh, the ship failed again and blew up, and it'd be nice not to. So
absolutely. I'm tired of looking at the screen and seeing the Earth spin. As always, Adrian, it's a pleasure to have you on stream. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I love that we started Countdown to Launch again, because that means we have quite a week in front of us. So it's going to be fun.
There's a lot of people in the background to thank. Carson Phillips, one of our operators, pressing the buttons, flipping switches, getting assets ready for us. Also, Kevin Michael Reed, the one and only, producing the Countdown to Launch, doing what he does, yelling at people, especially me. We love you, Kevin. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Guys, be sure to check out all of our socials. If you want to stay up to date with NSF, you can find us wherever you are on your social platform of choice. And again, obviously, there'll be a lot more streams coming your way as we get ready for Starship Flight 10 here at NSF. I'm Gene Rowley for everybody at NSF. Thank you so much for the amazing support. Remember, we'll catch you in the next one. Keep your eyes on the stars and dream big.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside speed off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 45. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?